Welcome to eLearning Unlocked. Hello, I'm Marielle,
Hi, I'm Julia.
and today we're going to talk about storytelling for fashion trading. So, welcome to the eLearning Unlocked podcast. We're a podcast about e-learning trends, best practices, really aimed at professionals and individuals working in the e-learning industry. We're going to cover a whole range of topics.
Yeah, we're going to dive deep into different features that you can use with your e-learning platform and what are the best practices with e-learning.
Yeah, and so today we're going to talk about storytelling and how storytelling is really great for motivating and engaging employees, and also how you can really integrate it as a huge part of your e-learning strategy, especially for anything related to luxury, retail, fashion.
Yeah. We're going to definitely focus on why the storytelling matters, but we'll
Absolutely.
base it on a few examples from the retail and fashion industry.
And as usual, try to make it very short, to the point, and efficient. We know everyone's busy, but we're really here to bring some little nuggets of knowledge for you to hopefully apply in your everyday life as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to really look at now how stories make trading more effective, and really how it sort of goes really hand in hand with also the emotion and the branding. So I think this is really going to be interesting. Let's dive into it.
Yeah, perfect.
So as the first point, let's really go into why does storytelling work in fashion trading. So I think one of the key things that it's not just about selling clothes, it's about selling a story.
Yeah, definitely. So the whole brand and identity of a company, it's all based on a story, right?
Yes.
You need to know how the brand evolved, what is the vision behind it. And that's why the story is really something that matters. So it's not indeed about just the products, just the clothes, just the accessories, etc. But really, just the story behind it.
And I think it's also about that emotional part and sort of having it resonate with your learners. When it's about memorization and you just want them to memorize a whole list of things, you might quiz them that day and they might have an 80% score, but 2 weeks down the line, like, what are they really going to remember?
Yeah.
And I think that's where storytelling is so powerful. First of all, because it will be really powerful for your employees and for, let's say, the sales staff, but also they are going to be able to share those stories often in an anecdotal way with even their clients.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Because then it could be like a little insight here and there during the sales process, even to make it even more personal, not only on the salesperson level, but also while talking to the customers, right? You really make them feel what the company vision is about. And in the end, this is what matters, right? The outcome.
Absolutely. And this is also where you then remember that as, let's say, even a customer, those little stories, you're not going to remember the exact, dates and the tiny numbers and the reference numbers. And I'm terrible for those kind of things. But then the stories, they really stick with you. For example, I was in the Louis Vuitton store in Zurich, and the sales employee, they told me that Louis Vuitton is actually from Switzerland and that he was born in Switzerland and then moved to Paris to start his business. And these are these little anecdotal things that can make you really feel more connected to a brand. I think it's really nice.
So it's more relatable.
Yeah, exactly. And that relatability, I think, it's important because it's how we all function. And especially when it comes to retail, whether it's a luxury product or not, I think it's really important that you can identify with the brand. And I think for the employees as well, for them to have to retain a lot of information can be very stressful and even a bit emotionally draining. But when they're actually fun stories, you're almost giving them, as a shop for a sales assistant, for example, you're really giving them
like the base to work with, and then they could build on it, right? So they have this kind of bullet points to remember. It's easier to remember the stories rather than some core facts, numbers, all the details. But then if you know how the story started, then it's easier to even incorporate those little dates or numbers here and there. If you know
the facts in.
Yeah.
And there's a science behind this. I mean, I think it always, for people, find it nicer, it feels nicer to learn things through storytelling, but also there's actually science that explains that, when you have storytelling, it is just more emotional, and therefore it is more memorable and it is more relatable. So I think both from an intuitive point of view, I think most people find that storytelling is just nicer when it's a little bit more wrapped up in a story. But then the data also really shows that it really helps the knowledge retention as well.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth mentioning that even with one of our clients, we had this kind of case that we went to visit them and we had the opportunity to really speak with the designer, to really get to know the vision. And in the end, we could be even better with the retail training in the end, because right now we know what matters. And this is actually like the second point of this podcast. So why it actually matters, why the storytelling matters.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I mean, definitely things like that you mentioned, you hear the story from the designer, and it just gives you so much more insight into how something was developed, the concept behind it, and it just gives you that emotional connection and explains also the history of the product. So I think it's really valuable. But yeah, let's go on to why it matters. So what are some of the key points, Julia?
So for sure, when it comes to storytelling, it helps staff, so the employees, internalize the brand's mission and values, right? Because it's the core what they do, right? It's not about the product as it is right now, but all the vision and mission that's behind.
And I suppose that kind of then helps them with motivation as well, right? I think if you feel that you're working for a brand that you actually do believe in, and that you understand that with a certain price point, they deliver an excellent quality and an excellent experience, there is that sort of more inherent belief in what you're proposing to the clients as well. And, you buy it for yourself, and it kind of makes you adhere a bit better to the brand.
Yeah, definitely. And it also builds this kind of like long-term relationship. It's not that you want to change your place of employment like each year or something. You just really, you're there with the company and you feel that you belong there. I think it's
a really family, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why the storytelling is there, to really pass it on to the different employees.
So that's really nice. And I think it's both for the relationship with the brand for the employee and with the customers as well.
Yeah.
I think it allows the employee to maintain better relationships with the customers, because they have more to talk about. They're not just here to, tell the model number and the price. I think there's like a whole story behind each product, and that really allows them to delve into that. So I think that's really, really nice. And then at the same time, it kind of also allows them to speak almost from the heart, rather than just from memory and saying, oh, let me look at my notes and here are the details of the product.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think it's about understanding and not memorizing everything, right?
Yeah.
Like really, if I am a customer, I go to the shop and I really want to understand what the product is about.
Yeah.
In order to get it, and then, I just use it on a daily basis.
Yeah, because the stats, we can get them off the internet, right? So I think it's also nowadays when people come into a store, it is also to see the product, to touch the product, but also perhaps for this more emotional experience that you cannot get on the website. So I think it's just I think the story is very key.
Yeah, especially in the end, you can really put in the end of the training, right? You can put like a little memo with some statistics here and there, but in the end, the essence is the whole story.
And yeah, so I think the customer interactions, they improve, and also in terms of then the retention of the training content, it's just much easier to memorize when it's relatable to their day-to-day tasks. So the things that they're working with every day, and then also the things that they discuss with their customers every day, because it just allows them to basically have an easier job. I think really good e-learning content is really about making, in the end, the employee's life easier, because you're giving them the tools and the skills to do an excellent job and to really drive sales, and to really even if they're in support roles, to support their team the best way they can. So it's really important that it kind of adds value to them as well. So as a bonus, how can we then really enhance that storytelling?
Yeah, I think it's a very nice part. I was really waiting for this one, because indeed, like, talking about storytelling in a theory is one thing, but to really use it on some concrete examples is the other thing. So for sure, we have a few examples to share with you. That's why scenario-based learning really works.
Yeah.
If you really want to present some content, some training material with the usage of storytelling, the first thing that comes to my mind is scenario-based learning. So that you can really imagine yourself in this situation, that you're with the customer and you don't really see the bullet points, like the instructions.
Exactly. No, and I think that's the key part, right? Is not this like just instructions of like, okay, so this is the process. You do 1, you do number, 2, and then 3.
Yeah.
It's rather that this is what happens and this is how you can resolve the situation. Or if you don't resolve the situation, these are the risks that can happen. So you're kind of framing it in a real life scenario rather than just saying, hello, this is the protocol. This is rule number 1, rule number 2.
Yeah, exactly.
This is very dry.
Yeah, that's true. And in this case, you can also test yourself. Even though you're still learning, you can still test yourself and see how would you act in this situation if you were given those instructions and this scenario, right? So it's like learning, but also, making it fun.
Yeah, definitely. And I think then you can add that interactivity, right? So you create these sort of scenarios or stories around a certain situation or a certain fact. And then you can also really create quizzes based on that story, or kind of even have choose your own adventure kind of scenarios. So you can really make it even interactive. So in a story, someone can choose how to react to something, or you can have them answer a question during the storytelling at some stage.
Yeah, definitely. Especially even when you think of utilizing some interactive features while presenting some facts, then in the end, you'll remember as a learner that, okay, I actually remember like that you visualize that this particular information was presented with flashcards, for example, or with some hotspots, and you just see that in front of you rather than plain text, right? So it's also very useful in terms of this kind of like storytelling to not put it as a plain text, but really use different interactive elements that they can then memorize, like exactly bring it live. It's a perfect forming.
So thanks a lot for listening to eLearning Unlocked, today's episode about storytelling in fashion and retail training. I think we have some good takeaways.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the key takeaway for today was really that when employees really convinced and understanding the key story behind a brand and also behind a product, it is just easier for them to then represent that brand as well in front of customers. So for retail training, it just makes perfect sense. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. And if you liked today's podcast, then we invite you to follow us and wait for next episodes.
Yeah, feel free to subscribe. Thank you so much.
Thanks.